Doing well with money has little to do with how smart you are, and a lot to do with how you behave. This one sentence rewires how you think about wealth. Not just how you spend, but how you feel, react, and make decisions when it comes to money. In this complete audiobook summary of The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel, you're not going to hear generic finance advice. You're going to understand why so many people, smart, educated, hard-working people, still struggle with money, stress, impulsive choices, and regret. This isn't about complex terms or impossible systems. It's about real life. Why do we feel broke even when we're earning? Why does comparison make us spend more than we want to? Why do some people stay rich while others keep restarting? This summary breaks down every core idea in a way that hits home, sticks with you, and pushes you to think differently starting today. If you're ready to fix your mindset before your bank account, this is where you begin. Chapter 1. Understand why smart people still lose money. Money is not only a math subject, and it is not only about knowing numbers or reading charts or understanding how markets move. Money is a human subject. I have spent a lifetime studying people, and one thing becomes clear when you watch closely. Smart people lose money every day. Educated people lose money. Experienced people lose money. This fact alone should make us pause and think deeper. If intelligence alone created wealth, then classrooms would be filled with millionaires and libraries would be full of financially free people. That is not the case because money follows behavior more than it follows knowledge. A person can understand every rule and still break them under pressure. A person can explain money perfectly and still make poor choices when emotions rise. This is not a failure of intelligence. This is a failure of self-control and awareness. When money decisions are made, people do not sit in a calm room with clear thinking. They decide when they feel fear. They decide when they feel pride. They decide when they feel rushed. They decide when they feel pressure to look successful. Money decisions often happen when emotions are loud and logic becomes quiet. One of the main reasons smart people lose money is because they confuse being right with being successful. Being right feels good. It feeds pride. It makes a person feel strong. But money does not reward pride. Money rewards patience and discipline. A person can be right about a situation and still lose money because timing and behavior were wrong. People push too hard because they want to prove they are right, instead of protecting what they already have. Another reason is comparison. Smart people compare themselves with others constantly. They see someone else making more money or moving faster, and they feel behind. This feeling pushes people to take risks they do not fully understand. They stop following their own comfort level and start copying another person's pace. Money does not move at the same speed for everyone. When people ignore this truth, they create stress and poor decisions. Comparison turns calm thinking into emotional action. Smart people also lose money because they underestimate how long success takes. They know success takes time, but emotionally they expect it sooner. When results move slowly, frustration builds. Frustration leads to shortcuts. Shortcuts usually come with higher risk. This is how smart people talk themselves into decisions they would normally avoid. They know better, but impatience takes control. Time is a quiet force, and money grows quietly. Those who demand fast proof often break long-term plans. Another powerful reason is overconfidence. Knowledge creates confidence, and confidence feels good, but too much confidence closes the door to caution. Smart people sometimes believe they can handle more risk because they understand the system. Understanding does not remove uncertainty. Markets change, life changes, events arrive without warning. Confidence without humility creates blind spots. When blind spots meet real-life consequences, money is lost. Emotions play a larger role than most people admit. Fear is one of the strongest forces in money decisions. Fear of losing, fear of missing out, fear of looking foolish. Fear pushes people to act when waiting would have been wiser. Greed works quietly as well. It whispers that more is possible right now. It encourages people to stretch beyond safe limits. Greed does not shout. It convinces. And smart people are very good at convincing themselves. Another reason smart people lose money is because they treat money decisions as short moments instead of long stories. One decision does not stand alone. Every decision connects to the next. When people focus only on winning today, they ignore the cost tomorrow. Wealth is built by staying in the game. Losing everything ends the game. Many intelligent people focus on growth before survival. The order matters. Survival must come first. Without it, growth has no foundation. There is also the influence of personal history. Every person brings past experiences into present decisions. Someone who grew up without money may fear losing it deeply. Someone who experienced fast success may expect it again. These memories shape reactions, even when logic says something else. Smart people are not immune to their past. Awareness of personal history is essential. Without awareness, old emotions guide new decisions. Smart people also lose money because they ignore the simple truth that money does not care about effort. Effort feels valuable to humans. Money responds to outcomes. People work hard and expect rewards. When rewards do not come, frustration grows. This frustration can turn into forced decisions. Money rewards consistency more than intensity. Many people push hard for short periods instead of building steady habits. Intensity feels productive. Consistency builds results. Another issue is ego. Ego wants recognition. Ego wants proof. Ego wants status. Money choices influenced by ego often become expensive lessons. Buying to impress. Investing to look smart. Taking risks to appear bold. Ego does not ask if the decision is safe or aligned with long-term goals. Ego asks how it looks right now. Smart people are especially vulnerable because ego feeds on intelligence. People also struggle because they assume control where none exists. Knowledge gives the feeling of control, but money exists inside uncertainty. Events happen that no one predicts. Systems break. Rules change. Accepting uncertainty is not weakness. It is strength. When people accept uncertainty, they plan with flexibility. When they deny it, they build fragile plans. Fragile plans break under pressure, and smart people often build very detailed, fragile plans. Money is deeply personal. Each person defines success differently, even if they do not admit it. When people chase numbers without understanding their own version of enough, they never feel satisfied. This dissatisfaction leads to constant adjustment and unnecessary risk. Peace matters. Calm decisions come from knowing what is enough. Without that clarity, people chase endlessly, and exhaustion leads to mistakes. Smart people also forget that boredom is often a sign of progress. Good money habits are often boring: saving regularly, avoiding drama, staying patient. Boredom does not excite the mind, so people look for action. Action feels productive, even when it harms progress. Stillness feels uncomfortable, but stillness protects wealth. Smart people sometimes mistake excitement for progress. The solution is not more information. The world is already full of information. The solution is better behavior. Better behavior starts with self-honesty, asking why a decision feels urgent. Asking what emotion is driving the choice. Asking if this decision protects long-term stability. Asking if this choice aligns with personal values. These questions slow decisions, and slow decisions improve outcomes. Money improves when people respect time. Respect for time removes pressure. It allows room for mistakes without destruction. It allows learning without panic. Time rewards those who stay consistent. This requires humility. Humility accepts slow growth. Humility accepts uncertainty. Humility keeps ego quiet. Humility keeps money decisions grounded. Smart people do not need to become smarter to win with money. They need to become calmer. Calm thinking creates space between feeling and action. In that space lives wisdom. Wisdom is not loud. Wisdom does not rush. Wisdom waits until emotions settle. Wisdom protects first, then grows. Wisdom understands that money is a tool, not a scoreboard. The goal is not perfection. The goal is survival and steady improvement. Mistakes will happen. Losses may happen. What matters is avoiding decisions that end the journey. Long-term success belongs to those who stay in the game long enough for small advantages to compound. This requires patience and emotional control more than intelligence. When a person understands that money follows behavior, everything changes. Decisions become simpler, pressure reduces, confidence becomes quiet and steady, progress becomes consistent. Smart people stop fighting their emotions and start managing them. That is when intelligence and discipline work together. The real lesson is this: money success is not about being the smartest person in the room. It is about being the most disciplined with emotions. When people master themselves, they gain control over their choices. When choices improve, results follow. This understanding alone can save years of struggle and regret. The future belongs to those who respect psychology as much as numbers, those who understand themselves before they try to control outcomes, those who value peace alongside progress. Money becomes a supportive part of life instead of a constant source of stress, and that is real wealth. Chapter 2. Notice how past experiences shape money choices. Every person has a story with money. That story didn't begin when they got their first job or opened a bank account. It began years earlier. Sometimes it started in childhood, sometimes during a major life shift, sometimes after a deep struggle. These early moments, good or bad, don't fade. They sit quietly in the background, shaping how we think, how we act, and how we respond to money today. Even if we don't talk about them, they shape every decision. Some people grew up in households where money was always tight. They watched parents argue over bills. They heard phrases like, "We can't afford that," over and over. For them, money now feels like a survival tool. It's not about growth or wealth. It's about safety. So they save more than others. They hesitate to spend even when they have enough. They may feel guilty for treating themselves or afraid of losing everything. That's not because they're wrong. It's because they carry a memory that says money disappears fast. Others were raised in abundance. There was always enough. They never worried about dinner or rent. They saw money being used for travel, comfort, or opportunity. For them, money might feel like a tool for freedom, not protection. So they spend more comfortably. They may take bigger risks. They may assume things will work out. That's not because they're careless. It's because their experience taught them to feel safe around money. Some people saw their parents lose everything. A business failed. A job disappeared. A health issue took all the savings. Those moments don't leave quietly. Even if life improves later, the fear stays. That fear shows up in how they invest, how they save, how they handle any dip in income. They want control. They want security. Not because they lack confidence, but because they've lived through what it feels like to have none. Our relationship with money is deeply emotional. Logic can't always override memory. A spreadsheet won't erase fear. A book on finance won't undo childhood beliefs. That's why two people can get the same advice but react completely differently. It's not because one is smarter, it's because one carries a different story. There are people who are extremely successful on paper but still live with a constant fear of going broke. Not because they're ungrateful or negative, but because they grew up seeing how fast things can fall apart. They still check their bank account 3 times a day. They still feel like it could all vanish overnight. That's their past showing up in their present. On the other side, some people ignore all financial planning because they've never seen real consequences. They spend freely, assuming they'll figure it out. That's not laziness. That's comfort based on past experience. If things have always worked out, it's hard to imagine they won't again. Understanding this can change everything. It can help you forgive yourself for choices you've made. It can help you stop comparing yourself to others who grew up with a different emotional map. It can help you realize that your past isn't a reason to feel stuck, but a reason to understand yourself better. Many people think financial improvement begins with budgeting or investing, but real change often starts with awareness. When you ask yourself, where did my money mindset come from? That's when progress begins. You may realize you fear spending because you watched your family struggle. You may notice you overwork because you tie money to self-worth. You may see that you avoid saving because you were never taught its importance. These patterns don't go away with discipline alone. They shift when you bring them into the light. Sometimes it's helpful to write your money story down. Not the numbers, but the emotions. What did you feel about money when you were younger? What did your parents teach you, directly or indirectly? What moments around money caused stress, pride, or shame? What patterns do you repeat today that might come from back then? You might realize you associate success with external approval because you were praised for earning, not for being content. You might realize you avoid talking about money with your partner because money talks always ended in shouting when you were a child. These are not small details. These are the hidden reasons behind many financial habits. There are people who constantly chase more, even when they already have enough. It's not greed, it's fear. Fear that if they stop running, everything will fall apart. There are people who self-sabotage financially when they start to succeed. They're not lazy, they're uncomfortable with the idea of having more than their parents did. These are emotional patterns. They won't shift until they're seen. Knowing your patterns doesn't mean you're broken. It means you're human. It means you have the power to respond differently. Awareness gives you that power. You may not be able to erase old beliefs, but you can decide which ones still serve you. You can build new patterns that match your current reality, not your past. This is also why judgment never helps. You never know what story someone else is carrying. You don't know why they're cautious or why they're reckless. You don't know what they've seen, what they've lost, or what they fear. We all have a reason behind how we act with money. That reason isn't always visible, but it's always real. If someone saves every penny, it might be because they once had none. If someone avoids saving entirely, it might be because they were never taught to value the future. If someone never talks about money, it might be because they grew up in silence or shame. These behaviors have roots. When we understand the roots, we stop judging the surface. You can start changing your money story by doing 3 things. First, observe. Notice what habits you follow without thinking. Notice what emotions rise when you make a money decision. Notice where your comfort zone begins and ends. Second, reflect. Ask yourself why. Ask where that habit came from. Ask what you're trying to feel or avoid. Third, adjust. Choose one small change that respects who you are today, not who you had to be years ago. That might mean finally setting up automatic savings. It might mean spending on something that brings joy without guilt. It might mean having a calm money talk with someone you trust. These small acts of awareness begin to loosen the grip of the past. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to change everything at once. You just need to start making choices from clarity instead of habit. That shift alone can change the direction of your life. Some people carry shame for how they've handled money. Some feel behind. Some feel stuck. But you are not stuck with the money mindset you inherited. You are not defined by your past experiences. They shaped you, yes, but they don't own you. You are allowed to grow past them. You are allowed to build a relationship with money that feels calm, clear, and personal. When you notice how your past shaped your choices, you give yourself the chance to reshape your future. That's not just powerful, that's freedom. Because real financial success isn't just about having more, it's about understanding why you want it, how you treat it, and how it fits into the life you actually want to live. That clarity is worth more than any paycheck, and it starts with one brave question: what is my story with money, and how do I want it to end?
Chapter 3. Stop copying others' financial timelines blindly. Every person walks a different path, but many feel the pressure to move at someone else's pace. In today's world, it's easy to fall into the trap of measuring your financial progress against the timeline of others. You scroll through your phone and see people buying homes, launching businesses, driving new cars, or retiring early. In those moments, you start to feel like you're falling behind. That feeling is quiet at first, but over time it builds pressure. You begin to wonder if you're doing something wrong. You question your progress, your choices, your pace. This is the danger of copying someone else's financial timeline. It disconnects you from your own path. Money is personal. There is no universal schedule. There is no rulebook that says by age 25 you must achieve one thing, or by 35 you must reach another. But because we live in a world that celebrates milestones publicly, it's easy to forget that everyone starts from a different place. Some people were raised in homes where money was openly discussed and wisely handled. Others had to learn everything on their own. Some had access to opportunities early on. Others had to fight for basic resources. These differences matter. They affect not just your results, but your speed. And copying someone who started at a different place, with different tools, will only leave you exhausted and discouraged. You might see someone your age making twice your income, but you don't see their debt. You don't see their pressure. You don't know the choices they're sacrificing behind the scenes. You might see someone retire young, but you don't see the risks they took to get there or the trade-offs they're still living with. The truth is, most financial pictures are incomplete. Social media and casual conversations give us the highlight reel, and chasing a highlight reel with your real life is not just unfair, it's damaging. Many people build their financial goals around what others are doing. They try to hit milestones just to feel like they're on track. But on track for what? A life they never chose. A lifestyle they may not even enjoy. This creates tension between your values and your actions. You start spending money to look like you're doing well instead of building the life you actually want. You start rushing decisions that require patience. You ignore your own needs, timing and values, just to keep up with someone who isn't even looking at you. One of the most dangerous results of copying someone's financial timeline is burnout. You push harder than your mind or body can handle. You say yes to every opportunity, even if it drains you. You stay in jobs or side hustles that leave you empty. Not because you want to, but because you think you have to. That kind of pressure steals your peace. And without peace, money has no meaning. What good is a savings account if you're anxious every day? What good is early retirement if you sacrificed your health to get there? Many people also end up in debt, not because they're careless, but because they tried to speed up a timeline that wasn't theirs. They took on loans to match the lifestyle of friends. They bought houses before they were ready. They invested in trends they didn't understand because someone else was doing it. These decisions weren't rooted in need or wisdom. They were rooted in fear. Fear of being left behind. Fear of being judged. Fear of not being enough. But there is no award for fastest progress, and there's no punishment for moving slow. In fact, slow often means careful. Slow often means intentional, and intentional people usually last longer. The ones who slow down to understand their money, their values, their goals, they build lives that feel right, not just look right. You don't need to earn what someone else earns. You need to earn enough to support the life you want. You don't need to invest the way someone else invests. You need a plan that matches your risk level and your time frame. You don't need to retire when someone else retires. You need to feel free in your own way, on your own terms. This is why clarity is powerful. When you're clear about what you want, you stop chasing what others have. You don't feel pulled in every direction. You don't feel panicked by someone else's success. You don't feel small when others win. You stay focused, you stay grounded, you stay aligned. So how do you stop copying others' timelines? You start by turning your attention inward. Ask yourself what kind of life you want, not what life looks impressive, but what life feels peaceful. What are your priorities? What brings you comfort? What makes you feel proud at the end of the day? These are not just nice questions. These are guiding questions. They help you define success on your own terms. Then you take stock of your starting point. What are your strengths? What are your responsibilities? What are your limitations? All of these affect your pace. And that's okay. You are not behind. You are where you are. And from here you move forward, not by rushing, but by building. Another powerful step is to protect your focus. This might mean limiting how much financial content you consume. It might mean unfollowing accounts that make you feel small. It might mean spending less time talking about money with people who only brag. Protect your mental space. What you see daily influences how you feel, and how you feel influences how you act. Also, track your own progress instead of someone else's. Measure how far you've come, not how far someone else has gone. Celebrate your wins, even the small ones. Saving $100, saying no to a purchase you didn't need, learning a new financial concept. These moments matter, and they add up. Understand too that your timeline will change. Life is unpredictable. Goals shift. Values evolve. That's normal. Don't tie your identity to a single plan. Build flexibility into your life. That way when things change, and they will, you don't feel like you've failed. You simply adjust. And most importantly, stay connected to purpose. Money is not a finish line. It's a tool. A tool to support what matters to you. When you remember that, you stop chasing timelines. You stop rushing. You stop comparing. You start building a life that feels strong on the inside, not just successful on the outside. So if you ever feel like you're not where you're supposed to be, take a breath. You're not late. You're not failing. You're living your own story. And your story is unfolding in its own time. Comparison might be loud, but your inner voice matters more. Trust it. Follow it. Let it lead you toward decisions that match your truth. Financial peace isn't about getting there fast. It's about getting there whole. And that means moving at the pace that works for you, not the pace that impresses someone else. The timeline that matters most is the one that honors who you are and who you're becoming. Let that be the one you follow. Chapter 4. Build money decisions around personal comfort levels. Most people make money decisions based on what others say is right. They follow advice from books, social media, friends, or even complete strangers, hoping to find the perfect strategy. But here's the truth that many overlook. What works for someone else might not work for you. Your financial choices should feel right to you, not just look right to others. If a decision causes stress, anxiety, or pressure, even if it's considered smart, it may not be the right fit for your life. Real peace with money starts when you build every choice around your personal comfort level. There's no single way to handle money. That's why people with completely different strategies can still find success. One person might invest heavily in stocks and feel excited about the risks. Another might keep their money in savings and feel better sleeping at night. Both can succeed if their approach matches their mindset. The problem begins when someone tries to force themselves into a strategy that doesn't sit well with them. Maybe they read that they should invest aggressively, but deep down it keeps them awake at night. Maybe they're told to start a business, but they prefer stability over uncertainty. Ignoring your comfort zone might make you feel like you're progressing faster, but it usually ends with burnout, regret, or emotional damage. You have to listen to your reactions. When you think about a financial decision, saving, investing, spending, or borrowing, what do you feel? Do you feel calm? Do you feel confident? Or do you feel rushed, nervous, and unsure? These are not just feelings to ignore, they are signals that tell you whether a decision supports your peace or steals it. And no financial strategy is worth your peace of mind. Some people feel fine taking on debt. They understand the terms. They believe in their future income. They use debt as a tool. Others feel deeply uncomfortable with any kind of loan. Even small amounts make them uneasy. That's not weakness. That's self-awareness. Knowing where your emotional limit is helps protect your mental well-being. There's no badge of honor for tolerating financial discomfort. You don't need to prove anything. You just need to protect your energy and move forward in a way that feels safe and steady. Comfort also applies to how you save. Some people love automating their savings. It gives them a sense of control and simplicity. Others feel better manually saving because it keeps them more aware of their spending. Neither is wrong. What matters is that it fits your style. If your method feels unnatural or forced, you're less likely to stick with it. Comfort builds consistency, and consistency is what builds results. The same goes for spending. You might hear that cutting back on coffee will make you rich, but if that daily coffee brings you joy and doesn't hurt your budget, then keep it. Life is not a punishment. Money should support your happiness, not restrict every small pleasure. On the other hand, if spending money on things you don't value leaves you feeling guilty or stressed, then that's your mind telling you it's time to realign your choices. One of the biggest mistakes people make is trying to follow financial plans that sound impressive, but feel overwhelming. They sign up for complex investment platforms. They try extreme budgeting methods. They make big changes all at once. But those methods collapse when they're not rooted in the person's actual lifestyle or energy level. You don't need a perfect plan. You need a plan that feels natural, one that you'll follow not for a week, but for years. That kind of plan doesn't exhaust you. It gives you energy. Another area where comfort matters is how you talk about money. Some people enjoy tracking every expense. Others find it stressful and prefer to set simple boundaries. Some couples talk about finances openly. Others take time to build that trust. You don't need to follow anyone else's communication style. You just need to create a system that works for you and the people involved. When money talks match your emotional tone, they become more productive and less draining. Comfort is also tied to how much risk you're willing to take. Risk tolerance isn't about how much you can technically afford to lose. It's about how much you can emotionally handle losing without panic or regret. If watching your investment go down even slightly makes you want to pull everything out, then a high-risk portfolio isn't for you, no matter how high the potential return is. Playing within your comfort zone doesn't mean you'll grow slower. It means you'll avoid the emotional spikes that lead to poor decisions. Many people ignore their comfort level because they don't trust themselves. They believe experts must know better. But no one knows your life better than you. Experts can offer tools, ideas, and information, but only you can decide what feels right. Trusting your inner voice is not a weakness, it's wisdom. It takes strength to say, "This strategy works for others, but I'm going to do it differently because I know myself." This doesn't mean staying in your comfort zone forever. Growth matters, but growth doesn't mean discomfort at all costs. Growth happens when you gently stretch your limits, not when you break them. A good financial move challenges you just enough to grow, but not so much that it creates panic. You increase your savings bit by bit. You try investing with small amounts. You have one money conversation before diving into everything. That's how real change sticks. Slowly, respectfully, patiently. Comfort levels are not excuses to avoid responsibility. They are tools to help you move forward with clarity and intention. If something feels wrong, pause, ask yourself why. Ask what would feel better, then make the adjustment. That adjustment might be small, but it will keep you moving. And movement, no matter how slow, is always more powerful than pressure. You can live a strong financial life without following trends. You can be confident in your decisions even if they don't match what your friends or co-workers are doing. The goal is not to impress others with how bold you are. The goal is to build a life that feels right when no one's watching. A life where money supports your peace, not threatens it. Comfort doesn't mean doing nothing. It means doing what aligns with who you are. When your money decisions match your personality, your values, and your lifestyle, they become sustainable. You stop needing to force progress. You stop second-guessing every move. You start to feel calm, focused, in control. And that is where power lives, in the calm, quiet decisions that support your life, not someone else's idea of success. So if you're wondering what step to take next, don't ask what's popular. Don't ask what looks smart on paper. Ask what feels true to you, then do that. Again and again until it becomes your way, not just a strategy, but a rhythm that feels like home. That's how you build financial strength. Not through stress, but through stability. Not through imitation, but through intention. Not through force, but through comfort that lasts. That kind of decision-making doesn't just create wealth. It creates a life you can live well in. And that is the kind of wealth worth building. Chapter 5. Respect uncertainty instead of predicting markets. Most people want to believe the future can be predicted, especially when it comes to money. They search for answers, trends, signs, anything to give them certainty. They want to know when to invest, when to sell, when the market will crash, or when it will rise. But the truth is simple. Even if it's uncomfortable, no one knows exactly what will happen. Markets are complex systems shaped by millions of decisions, emotions, accidents, and events. Trying to predict them perfectly is not only impossible, it's often harmful. Real financial strength comes not from guessing right, but from building habits that respect how uncertain the world really is. Uncertainty makes people nervous because it removes control. We all like the feeling of being in charge. Predicting gives a false sense of security. It makes you feel like you figured something out, like you're ahead of the curve. But more often than not, prediction leads to overconfidence. It pushes people to take risks they don't understand. It convinces them they can time things perfectly, when in reality, even the most experienced experts miss again and again. You can read every report, study every pattern, and still be surprised. What's more important than being able to predict markets is being able to live through what they do, because the market doesn't care about your plan. It moves based on thousands of invisible things: news, politics, human behavior, panic, hope, random events. You can't outsmart all of it, but you can build a mindset that expects uncertainty and prepares for it. That's where true confidence comes from. Not from guessing what's next, but from knowing you'll be okay no matter what comes. Some people spend hours each day trying to find the perfect time to buy or sell. They move their money constantly, hoping to beat the system, but in trying to be perfect, they often lose more. They chase quick wins, miss steady growth, and react emotionally to every shift. It's exhausting, and it's unnecessary. The most successful investors aren't the ones who predict every turn. They're the ones who create a plan, stick to it, and stay calm when things change. Uncertainty is not the enemy, it's part of life. In fact, it's what creates opportunity. Without uncertainty, there would be no reward for taking smart risks. If we knew everything in advance, there would be no room to grow. The key is to respect it, not fight it, not fear it, but build your decisions around it. That means choosing strategies that can survive when things don't go as expected. It means having backup. It means accepting that sometimes you'll be wrong, and that's okay. Respecting uncertainty also means avoiding extremes. People who think they can predict everything often go all in. They invest everything in one place. They borrow too much. They build plans with no flexibility. That works when things go right. But when things go wrong, as they always do, they have no cushion. A single mistake wipes out everything. On the other hand, people who accept uncertainty spread their risk. They keep their spending below their income. They avoid betting everything on one outcome. These habits may not look exciting, but they are powerful. Another important part of respecting uncertainty is building a long-term mindset. Most people overreact to short-term changes. They panic during dips. They chase after sudden spikes. But if you zoom out, markets have always moved in cycles. There are ups and downs. Always. The people who win are the ones who stay through the storm, not the ones who try to dodge every drop. Predicting the exact moment a market will fall or rise isn't just difficult, it's unnecessary. What matters more is how you behave when the unexpected happens. This mindset also applies outside of investing. It shapes how you plan your income, your career, your goals. Life doesn't follow a straight line. Jobs can be lost. Costs can rise. Emergencies can hit without warning. That's why smart money decisions include buffers, emergency savings, flexible budgets, room to breathe. These aren't signs of fear. They're signs of wisdom. They give you the ability to stay calm when others panic. They protect you from being forced into bad choices during hard times. Some people believe preparing for uncertainty is negative thinking. It's not. It's maturity. It's accepting reality instead of wishing it away. Hoping everything will go right is not a plan. Real plans ask, what if it doesn't, and then make space for that answer. When you build systems that can survive surprises, you gain freedom. You don't need to guess anymore. You just need to be ready. This mindset also lowers stress. The constant pressure to predict, to know everything in advance, to stay ahead, it's heavy. When you let go of that pressure and build for the unknown instead, you feel lighter. You can focus on what you control. You can focus on your behavior, your habits, your consistency. These things are within your reach. And over time, they make the biggest difference. The challenge is that this approach is not flashy. It doesn't make headlines. It doesn't promise overnight success. But it works. Slowly, quietly, powerfully, and over the long run, it outperforms most short-term predictions. You might not get every detail right, but you'll stay standing while others fall apart, and that's what matters most. To live well with money, you don't need perfect timing. You need strong foundations. You don't need to see the future. You need to build a future you can survive and enjoy. That means being honest with yourself about what you don't know. That means creating space for change. That means choosing patience when others chase speed. One of the best things you can do is stop pretending you can know it all. The market doesn't owe you clarity. The world won't always explain itself. But if you keep your decisions simple, your risks spread out and your focus long-term, you give yourself a huge advantage. That advantage is not based on luck. It's based on discipline. So when you hear someone talk like they've figured it all out, be cautious. When you feel the urge to chase a trend, pause. When you think you've finally found the one sure thing, ask yourself if it respects the fact that the world is unpredictable. The strategies that survive are the ones that are strong, not just smart. You don't need a perfect plan. You need a flexible one. One that bends when life bends. One that gives you options when the future surprises you. That kind of plan may take time to build, but it will carry you through more than just one good year. It will carry you through a lifetime of change. And that's the real goal. To build a life that doesn't collapse every time the world shifts. To build habits that protect you when your predictions are wrong. To build a mindset that welcomes uncertainty as a teacher, not a threat. That mindset doesn't just create wealth, it creates peace. And peace is worth more than any forecast.
Chapter 6. Value long survival over short-term success. Most people admire quick wins. Fast progress looks exciting. It gets attention. It feels like success. But what matters more than a few big steps is staying in the game long enough to let small steps grow. The real goal with money isn't to win once. It's to avoid losing for decades. That means valuing survival over speed, because survival is the quiet skill that lets everything else work. Without it, nothing you build lasts. Short-term success is tempting. It gives you results that are easy to show. When someone doubles their money in a year, people applaud. When someone starts a business and makes a lot right away, it looks like they figured everything out. But the question isn't whether someone can succeed fast. It's whether they can stay successful without burning out, breaking down, or losing everything in a moment of risk. Most fast success stories are incomplete. They don't show the pressure behind the scenes. They don't show the risk that was hidden. They don't show the fear that follows when you know one mistake could erase it all. Choosing survival over speed doesn't mean moving slow forever. It means protecting the ability to keep going. That matters more than how flashy your progress looks today, because the market will change. Life will surprise you. Plans will break. If your entire system depends on everything going perfectly, you don't have a strong system. You have a fragile one. And fragile things don't last long, no matter how impressive they seem for a moment. The best financial plans don't aim to impress, they aim to last. They include buffers. They leave room for errors. They assume mistakes will happen and build safety nets in advance. That's not negativity. That's wisdom. Long-term thinkers don't bet everything on one opportunity. They spread their chances. They don't take risks that feel exciting, but could cost them everything. They ask, can I live with the downside, before they chase the upside. Survival is about consistency. It's about making good decisions over and over. Not perfect ones, just steady ones. It's about showing up each day, doing what works, and resisting the urge to chase shortcuts. Most people fail not because they're lazy or foolish, but because they break their systems during pressure. They panic during a dip. They get greedy during a rise. They react instead of staying grounded.
Those reactions often erase years of progress. When you prioritize survival, you give yourself permission to think clearly. You're not driven by fear or urgency. You don't feel forced to act quickly. You stay focused on your goals, not on someone else's pace. That focus creates better results, not just financially, but emotionally. You sleep better. You avoid unnecessary stress. You feel more in control, even when the world is uncertain. Many people build their plans on what worked once. They look at a friend's lucky investment. They copy a viral trend. They hear about a high return and jump in. But luck isn't a strategy. The better question is, what can work for me again and again, even when things go wrong? That's how you build for survival. You choose what's sustainable over what's exciting. You choose systems over guesses. You choose patience over pressure. There's a reason most great investors talk about time, not timing. Time builds resilience. It turns small gains into something powerful. It helps you recover from losses. It lets you grow even when progress feels slow. But time only works if you stay in the game, and that's why survival comes first. If you blow up your finances trying to double your income in a year, you don't get to enjoy the long term. If you burn out trying to reach a goal too fast, you stop moving altogether. This principle also applies to how you work, how you earn, how you build your life. If your career path is built on endless stress, it won't last. If your lifestyle requires constant pushing with no rest, you'll collapse. Growth without balance eventually leads to breaking. But when you build with stability in mind, you can keep going. That's when growth becomes unstoppable. Not because it's fast, but because it doesn't quit. Respecting survival also means recognizing that things won't always go your way. There will be downturns. There will be emergency. There will be mistakes. None of that means you failed. It just means you're human. But if you've planned for survival, you'll absorb the shock. You won't need to start over every time something unexpected happens. You'll adjust and keep moving. Another part of survival is humility. When you believe that anything can happen, you stop pretending you know everything. You become more cautious, not fearful, just thoughtful. You ask better questions. You protect what you've built. You stop needing to prove yourself. That kind of mindset isn't flashy, but it's strong, and strength is what keeps your future safe. You don't need to reach every goal today. You don't need to retire in 5 years. You don't need to match anyone's results. What you need is to keep showing up, keep learning, keep making decisions that protect your future. Because progress adds up, slowly, quietly, but powerfully, and over time it becomes something unshakable. Long-term thinking isn't about waiting. It's about building. Every smart choice today becomes a foundation for tomorrow. Every time you save instead of spend out of emotion, you add strength. Every time you pause before jumping into a trend, you protect your base. Every time you say no to something flashy and yes to something steady, you grow your chances of staying in the game for good. Short-term success might look good in the moment, but it often brings long-term regret. It tempts you to overreach, to push too hard, to risk too much. And when the excitement fades, you're left with the consequences. But survival, real survival, brings confidence. It gives you space to breathe. It gives you freedom to choose. It gives you time to learn from your mistakes, without losing everything. The most powerful thing you can do for your future is to stay in the game, through wins and losses, through growth and setbacks, through changes and challenges. You don't need to do everything right. You just need to avoid the kind of decisions that take you out completely. If you can do that, you give yourself the chance to build a life that's strong, stable, and fulfilling. Not just for a moment, but for as long as you need it to be. That is the real success worth chasing. Not speed, not perfection, but survival, with strength, for the long road ahead. Chapter 7. Create space between income and ego. One of the most overlooked truths about money is how closely it's tied to ego. Not in the obvious way, where someone brags about how much they earn or what they own, but in the quiet, internal ways that most people never talk about. Ego shows up when income rises and spending follows. It appears when someone earns more and feels the need to look like it. It appears when people chase validation through what they can afford, instead of who they truly are. And unless you learn to create space between your income and your ego, you will always feel the pressure to prove something. Many people increase their lifestyle every time their income grows. They get a raise and suddenly need a better car. A bonus comes in, and it goes straight into a more expensive lifestyle. On the outside, it looks like progress, but inside it creates tension. The more your lifestyle grows, the more income you need to maintain it. That's not freedom. That's pressure. And it often comes from ego, the quiet desire to feel successful through appearance, not security. The truth is, no one really sees your bank account. What people see is how you present yourself. And that's where ego loves to live. It convinces you to spend not for joy but for attention, not for peace but for status. Not because you need something but because it makes you feel important. This is where so many smart, capable people get stuck. They earn more, but they don't feel better. Because their spending is built to impress others, not to support their values. When there's no space between income and ego, your money decisions stop being about you. They become a response to what you think others expect. You buy the bigger house not because you love it, but because it feels like the next step. You go on the luxury trip, not because you need the rest, but because you want to feel like you've made it. This kind of thinking is exhausting. It creates a life where money becomes a performance, not a tool for stability. But when you create space between income and ego, something powerful happens. You begin to make decisions from a place of confidence, not pressure. You stop needing to prove anything. You can drive a reliable car without feeling small. You can live in a home that's practical without feeling behind. You can enjoy your money without attaching your worth to what others see. That kind of space gives you freedom. Not just financial freedom, but mental and emotional freedom too. This space is what builds wealth. It's what allows you to save, invest, and plan without constantly chasing more. It's what gives you breathing room when life shifts. It's what helps you stay calm when others are caught up in the race. Because you're not trying to win a race, you're trying to live well, and that requires different choices. Creating this space doesn't mean you avoid nice things. It means you choose them for the right reasons. If a new car brings you comfort and fits your budget, enjoy it. If a vacation gives you rest and doesn't create stress, take it. But if your choices come from trying to impress or fit in, pause. Ask yourself what you're really chasing. Often it's not the thing itself, it's the feeling of being seen or accepted. That feeling fades quickly. And when it fades, the pressure returns. There's also a deep strength in being able to say, I don't need that right now. That one sentence holds the power to protect your finances, your peace, and your future. It allows you to grow your savings, build a cushion, and make decisions that support your long-term goal. It also teaches patience. And patience is one of the most underrated financial skills. It lets you wait for the right moment instead of forcing results to feel successful. Another way to create this space is to define what enough means to you, not based on what your peers have, but based on what actually makes you feel secure. Enough is different for everyone. Some feel content with less, others enjoy more, and that's okay. What matters is that the number comes from your own life, not from someone else's highlight reel. When you define enough, you stop chasing endlessly. You focus. You simplify, you breathe easier. This mindset also allows you to build quietly. You don't need to announce every move. You don't need validation to feel proud. You build because it matters to you. You stay consistent because you believe in your goals. And you let your results speak for themselves over time. This quiet strength is rare. It's not loud or flashy, but it's real. And it's what separates people who feel secure from those who only look secure. There's nothing wrong with earning more. In fact, growing your income can open doors. But it only helps if you know how to handle it. More money doesn't fix ego. It amplifies what's already there. If your ego needs approval, you'll spend faster than you earn. If your ego needs recognition, you'll tie your identity to things that don't last. That's why managing your mindset matters more than increasing your paycheck. Because if you don't handle the inner pressure, no amount of money will ever feel like enough. This is also why gratitude is such a powerful practice. When you regularly reflect on what you have, you stop obsessing over what's missing. You see your progress, you feel grounded, you don't need as much to feel whole. And from that space, your financial decisions improve. They become intentional instead of reactive. They support your values instead of feeding your insecurities. Building a gap between income and ego isn't about deprivation. It's about discipline. It's about choosing a life where your money serves you, not your image. Where your goals reflect your true needs, not your social circle's expectations. Where your progress feels steady and strong, not rushed and fragile. You'll know you've built this space when you can walk into a room and not feel the need to prove anything. When you can scroll through someone else's success and still feel content with your path. When you can earn more and not feel the urge to upgrade everything. That's not just financial maturity. It's personal power. This mindset doesn't develop overnight. It grows with practice. It starts with small moments of honesty. Asking, why do I want this, before spending, pausing before upgrading, reflecting on what actually adds value to your life. Each honest moment adds to the gap. Each decision made from clarity, not ego, builds strength. Over time, the benefits grow. You gain control over your finances. You build a future that's stable. You stop living paycheck to paycheck. Not because you earn a fortune, but because you spend wisely. You give yourself space to handle life's surprises without panic. And most of all, you build a life that feels real, a life that isn't controlled by outside noise. The space between income and ego isn't just about money. It's about peace. It's about alignment. It's about choosing what matters and letting go of what doesn't. When you build that space, your life becomes less about looking rich and more about feeling secure. That's where freedom lives. That's where confidence grows. That's where real wealth begins. Chapter 8. Let time work by avoiding constant interference. Most people want results quickly. They want proof that something is working. They want signs that progress is happening. But the most powerful force in money and in life is time. Quiet, steady time. Time is what turns small steps into major results. Time is what multiplies tiny efforts into huge wins. But time only works if we let it, and the truth is, most people don't. They check too often. They change direction too quickly. They interrupt the very process that could change everything, because they can't see results right away. If you want to build something strong, you need to give time the space it needs to work without constant interference. There's something deeply uncomfortable about waiting. We're surrounded by speed. Messages arrive instantly. Updates are constant. Feedback is immediate. So when something takes weeks, months, or years, it feels unnatural. But growth, real growth, doesn't move on a fast timeline. It's invisible at first. Then suddenly it becomes obvious. That's how progress works. It builds in the background. The results only show later, and if you interfere too early, you reset the clock every time. One of the biggest mistakes people make with money is not giving their plans enough time to unfold. They start saving, then stop because it doesn't feel like enough. They invest, then pull out when the market drops. They set a budget, then abandon it because they didn't see results after 1 month. These decisions come from impatience, not failure. The strategy might be solid, but the person didn't trust it long enough to see the results. That's not a money problem. That's a mindset problem. You don't need to be a genius to build wealth. You need to be patient. You need to avoid panic. You need to stay focused on small actions done consistently. Time multiplies what you repeat. But if you keep restarting, you never give those actions a chance to build. Think of every change, every tweak, every reset as a small interruption. Each one breaks the chain. Each one loses momentum. That's why consistency matters more than intensity. When you check your progress every day, you create doubt. When you expect results too fast, you create disappointment, and both lead to emotional decisions. But time doesn't care about emotions. It works best when left alone. The less you interfere, the more it compounds. You don't need to obsess over the results. You need to stay steady with your behavior. That's where the real power is. This applies to investing, saving, habits, and even your mindset. Let's say you invest a little money every month. You won't feel rich in the beginning. It might even feel slow, but give it 10 years. Then give it 20. What once felt small now looks massive. That's the effect of time. But that only happens if you let your investments grow without touching them every time the market shifts. Pulling out after a dip only locks in a loss. Staying in allows recovery, and recovery is where the gains happen. The same is true with saving. If you keep dipping into your savings because it's not growing fast enough, it never gets the chance to build. You spend the seeds instead of letting them become trees. Every time you break your plan because progress feels too slow, you start over. And starting over is exhausting. Eventually people burn out, not because they didn't try, but because they kept interrupting what could have worked. Time rewards patience. It gives you options. It gives you space. It gives you the ability to relax and not chase every trend. It lets your habits do the work for you. But only if you stop poking at your results every few days. Imagine planting a seed and digging it up every week to check if it's growing. That's what most people do with their financial plans. They interrupt the process again and again, then wonder why nothing works. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be patient enough to let the good things grow. You need to stay with your plan long enough to let it speak for itself. You need to trust that effort over time always creates change, even if you can't see it right away. This kind of thinking takes discipline, not just in action, but in thought. It's not just about what you do, it's about what you choose not to do. Choosing not to interfere is a skill. One of the most helpful things you can do is build systems that don't need constant checking. Automate your savings. Set a monthly investing schedule. Make your plan simple enough that you don't need to touch it often. The fewer decisions you have to make, the easier it becomes to stay the course. The less noise you allow in, the clearer your path becomes. You also need to protect your focus. The more you compare your progress to others, the more tempted you'll be to interfere. If someone else looks like they're moving faster, you'll want to change something. But their pace isn't your pace. Their story isn't your story. The more you look outward, the more doubt creeps in. And doubt is what leads to interference. Trust your path. Let your work speak over time. No one else's progress changes your destination. You'll know time is working when things start to feel easier, when saving doesn't feel like sacrifice, when your investments grow without effort, when your habits become part of who you are. That ease doesn't come on day one. It comes after staying committed, without constantly questioning yourself. It comes from not giving up the moment things feel slow. You don't see the change each day, but one day you look back and everything is different. Letting time work is also about emotional maturity. It's about knowing that your feelings will shift, but your plan doesn't need to. You'll have days where things feel stuck. You'll have moments when you want to make changes just to feel in control. But growth often happens right after discomfort. Pushing through that moment without changing direction is where the strength is built. This mindset will change how you approach everything. You'll stop rushing. You'll stop doubting your process. You'll start to trust yourself more. And that trust becomes a quiet form of confidence. Not loud, not showy, just steady. And in a world filled with noise and urgency, that kind of calm is rare and powerful. Give your goals room to breathe. Give your efforts time to work. Give your strategies the respect of patience. Don't interrupt what's working just because it's quiet. Don't ruin progress because you crave fast proof. And most of all, don't underestimate what's building just because you can't see it yet. That's where the breakthrough lives. That's where the momentum is growing. And the only thing it needs from you is time, uninterrupted, protected and trusted.
Chapter 9. Define success using peace, not numbers. Most people are taught that success is a number, a bigger paycheck, a higher savings account, a more expensive house, a certain net worth by a certain age. We grow up measuring progress in digits: how much you make, how much you own, how much you've collected. But those numbers, by themselves, don't tell the full story. Because real success is not just what shows up on a spreadsheet. It's how you feel when you wake up. It's how calm your life feels. It's how much of your day is spent doing things you care about. Defining success only with numbers is one of the fastest ways to feel empty, even when you've achieved a lot. There are people who have everything they thought they wanted: money in the bank, a big house, recognition, and still feel restless, anxious, or drained. Not because they're ungrateful, but because they were chasing someone else's version of success. They reached the goal, but realized it didn't make them feel better. That's the risk of setting targets without understanding your own definition of peace. Numbers can be useful, but they're not the whole picture. Peace is what gives life quality, and when peace is missing, more money can't fix that. Peace means different things for different people. For some, it means being debt-free and knowing they can handle emergencies without stress. For others, it means having time in the morning to sit with a cup of coffee without rushing. Some people feel peace when they're working on a meaningful project, even if it doesn't pay much. Others feel it when they know their schedule isn't packed with things they don't enjoy. The point is, peace is personal, and it can't be measured by comparing yourself to someone else's numbers. We live in a culture that praises hustle and speed. People are encouraged to move faster, do more, earn more, achieve constantly, and in that environment, it's easy to believe that slowing down means falling behind. But slowing down is often where you find what really matters. It's where you notice the difference between being busy and being fulfilled. Peace isn't loud. It doesn't announce itself, but once you feel it, you know how valuable it is. If your money goals are causing constant tension, it might be time to ask yourself why you set them. Were they based on your values, or were they built around pressure? There's no shame in adjusting your goals to better match your real life. In fact, that's strength. That's awareness. When you build your financial life around what actually brings peace, your decisions become easier. You stop chasing. You start choosing.
Peace also shows up in how you manage your time. If you're earning more but have no time to enjoy your life, is that success? If your income has grown but your health is declining, is that worth it? If you can afford anything except rest, your wealth isn't supporting you, it's draining you. True success creates space. It allows you to breathe. It gives you flexibility. That doesn't always require more income. Sometimes it just requires better choices. Peace is also about trust. Trusting that you don't have to do what everyone else is doing. Trusting that your goals are valid, even if they don't look impressive on paper. Trusting that a smaller, simpler life might actually make you happier than a bigger, more complicated one. Trust removes the need to constantly prove yourself, and when you stop trying to prove something, you start living more honestly. One of the best things you can do for your financial well-being is to ask yourself regularly, what kind of life feels calm to me? Not what kind of life looks successful to others. Not what life your peers expect you to live, but what kind of life makes you feel present and grounded. Your answer might surprise you. It might lead to changing your career path. It might lead to downsizing. It might lead to walking away from a job that pays well but drains you. That decision won't always be easy, but it will bring you closer to peace, and that's worth far more than any title or dollar amount. Peace also influences how you relate to money day to day. When you value peace, you stop stressing over every price tag. You don't panic when plans change. You stop spending to feel better and start spending to support what matters. You stop trying to control everything and start trusting the process. That's a completely different experience than living with constant financial anxiety, even when your income is high. Many people think peace is what happens after they hit a certain number, but it doesn't work that way. Peace isn't something that arrives once you've earned enough. It's something you choose to build into your life with intention. It comes from knowing what matters, setting boundaries, and refusing to let numbers control your worth. You can feel peace earning $50,000 a year. You can feel chaos earning $500,000. The income doesn't define the feeling. The alignment does. You're allowed to want more. Growth is good. Ambition is good. But growth that destroys your peace is not success. Ambition that leaves you drained is not power. The best kind of success supports your values, your health, your relationships, and your rest. And that kind of success often requires saying no to more, no to comparison, no to extra pressure, no to chasing numbers that don't improve your life in meaningful ways. Redefining success with peace at the center changes everything. It changes how you work, what you buy, who you listen to, and what you aim for. It creates space to enjoy your progress without constantly needing more. It lets you feel proud of your choices, even if they don't look flashy. It lets you design a life that fits you, not one that's built for applause, but leaves you exhausted behind closed doors. This kind of thinking takes courage. It's not what most people talk about, but it's what most people actually want. Deep down, people don't just want more money. They want less stress. They want time with their families. They want energy. They want to sleep at night without racing thoughts. These things don't show up on a financial statement, but they are the real measure of a good life. So the next time you think about what success means to you, don't just write down a number. Ask what that number will actually give you. Ask how it will feel. Ask whether chasing it will cost you peace or help you build it. And if the answer doesn't feel right, change the number. Change the path. Redefine the win. You have that power. Success is not one size fits all. It's not a race. It's not a contest. It's a personal, quiet experience of living a life that feels right to you. That might mean less income, but more freedom. That might mean fewer things, but deeper joy. That might mean working less and smiling more. There is no shame in that. In fact, there is strength in walking away from a life that looks good to others, but doesn't feel good to you. At the end of the day, the real wealth is peace. The kind of peace that stays with you no matter what the market does. The kind of peace that doesn't need to be earned with applause. The kind of peace that makes you look around and say, "This life fits me." That's a success worth working for. That's a life worth building.
Chapter 10. Choose habits that keep money stress low. Money stress doesn't always come from how much you make. More often, it comes from how you manage what you already have. It builds slowly through small habits that feel harmless at first, but grow over time into patterns that feel heavy. Habits like checking your balance 5 times a day, buying to feel better, then feeling worse. Avoiding bills until they pile up. These routines drain your energy, and over time they create a life where money feels like a constant source of pressure instead of a tool for stability. But just as stress can come from habits, peace can too. Choosing habits that reduce seasonal anxiety is one of the most powerful steps you can take, not just to protect your wallet, but to protect your mind. One of the most useful habits is creating a simple budget that matches your real life, not a strict system that makes you feel trapped, not a spreadsheet you abandon in a week. Just a clear understanding of what's coming in, what's going out, and what matters most. This gives your brain relief. You stop wondering if you'll be okay. You stop guessing every time you spend. Clarity removes tension. It doesn't need to be perfect, it just needs to be real. Another habit that lowers money stress is tracking where your money goes, not to judge yourself, but to understand your patterns. When you know your habits, you stop living in mystery. You find out what's draining you without meaning to. You learn what brings real value and what doesn't. This awareness gives you power. Most stress comes from uncertainty. But when you know where things stand, you feel more in control, and control creates calm. Automating your savings is another powerful way to reduce money stress. When you save without thinking about it, you remove the decision from your daily mental load. You avoid the trap of putting it off. Even if it's a small amount, it adds up. And more importantly, it builds the habit of preparing for your future without constant effort. That sense of preparation softens the weight of the unknown. You're not just reacting, you're building. Having a small emergency fund, even just a few $100s, can dramatically lower your financial anxiety. It's not about having everything figured out, it's about knowing you can handle a surprise without panic. When something goes wrong, and it will at some point, that fund gives you space to respond instead of react. That space is where calm thinking lives, and calm thinking leads to better decisions. Reducing financial stress also means avoiding the comparison trap. Looking at how others spend, save, or earn can quickly distort your sense of progress. Someone else's new car or vacation might trigger doubt, but their life has nothing to do with yours. You don't know what they sacrificed. You don't know what pressure they're under. When you base your decisions on your values instead of others' choices, you move with confidence instead of anxiety. That confidence comes from staying aligned with what matters to you, not chasing what impresses someone else. Another helpful habit is setting clear boundaries for spending. Not restrictions that make you feel guilty, but limits that reflect what you actually value. Maybe it's choosing to eat out less so you can travel more. Maybe it's skipping one big purchase so you can avoid debt. These aren't sacrifices, they're decisions, and every time you choose with purpose, you take stress out of the picture. You're not wondering if you did the right thing, you know why you did it. That sense of purpose replaces worry. Checking your accounts regularly, but not obsessively, is also important. Ignoring your finances doesn't reduce stress.
It only delays it. Facing the truth, even when it's uncomfortable, is always better than avoiding it. Make a habit of checking in once a week. No judgment, just awareness. See where you are. Adjust if needed. Then move on with your day. This creates a sense of rhythm, and rhythm creates calm. Communicating openly about money with the people in your life is another stress-reducing habit. Whether it's a partner, a roommate, or a family member, honest conversations remove confusion. They prevent resentment. They create shared understanding. Financial stress often grows in silence. But when you talk through goals, fears, and decisions together, you feel supported. You don't have to carry the full weight alone. Learning something small about money on a regular basis is another way to reduce stress. You don't need to become an expert. You just need to keep growing. Read one article, watch one video, listen to one podcast. When you keep learning, you feel more capable, and capability pushes fear aside. You start making decisions with clarity instead of guessing. That knowledge builds resilience. Avoiding financial clutter is another practical habit. Keep your accounts simple. Cancel what you don't use. Clean up old subscriptions. Remove tools or systems that confuse you. A cluttered financial life creates background noise that your brain constantly tries to manage. Simplifying your setup frees mental space, and that space gives you peace. Being kind to yourself during setbacks is one of the most overlooked habits that reduce money stress. Everyone makes mistakes. Everyone hits a rough patch. Blaming yourself or panicking only adds pressure. Instead, take a breath, learn what you can, adjust where needed, then move forward. Self-compassion turns stress into progress. It helps you recover without losing confidence, and confidence keeps you grounded. Saying no when needed is another powerful habit. No to extra expenses that don't align with your goals. No to financial commitments that create discomfort. No to adding more when you're already stretched. Protecting your peace sometimes means disappointing others, but every no that protects your mental and financial health is a yes to your future stability. Scheduling regular financial check-ins with yourself is another useful habit. Once a month, look at your budget, your goals, and your progress. Not to criticize, but to stay in touch. Progress feels less stressful when you track it in real time. You don't wake up one day feeling lost. You stay aware, and awareness keeps anxiety from taking over. Lastly, remind yourself often that you don't need to have it all figured out. No one does. Stress grows when you think you're behind, but you're not behind. You're building, you're learning, you're adjusting. That's what progress looks like. And the more you accept that growth is messy, the more relaxed you'll feel. Peace doesn't come from perfection. It comes from making steady choices that support your well-being. Every small habit that creates calm around money adds up. Over time, those habits build a life that feels stable, even when life is unpredictable. They give you the power to face challenges without panic. They help you focus on what matters instead of what's urgent. And most of all, they remind you that you're in control not of everything, but of enough to make a difference. You don't need to wait for a big change to feel better about money. You just need to begin choosing the kind of habits that remove stress, instead of add to it. Simple action, honest awareness, gentle discipline. These are the tools, and they're available to you now. Not tomorrow, not next year, right now, because a peaceful relationship with money doesn't start when you have more. It starts when you do less of what hurts and more of what helps. And the sooner you begin, the sooner you'll feel that peace growing every single day.